Hello, everybody. Extraordinarily, thank you for tuning in. And I got to tell you, Kyle has been up to his wonderful antics again, and he has a special announcement. Kyle, what do you have?
Yeah, so Alex, we're bringing virtual live entertainment back to your home. And we've been working on this for about 4 months now, ever since the pandemic got started. And so what we're doing now is that we're bringing it's gonna be called Laugh at Home Comedy Show, which is gonna bring the comedy to you at your home. You can watch it with your entire family, if it's in your living room, your family room, your game room, your office, wherever you want to watch it. And it's gonna bring just joy and fun. It's gonna be fully interactive, and it's gonna be over the videoing platforming Zoom, so people can get picked on, get guest on, whatever. But you're also gonna listen to some brand new jokes, some awesome comics, and it's gonna be a fun laughing night. Tickets are at $5. There is a limited capacity of 80 people, so you guys gotta better get them before they do sell out, because there is a limited capacity for that show. So it's gonna be fun. August 15th, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's gonna be fun. Guys, welcome to Live with Kyle and Alex.
Hello.
Tonight's show is featuring very special guests, a little bit on our side of the scoop on talk shows, a little bit more like podcasts. But first, let's get down to business. Alex, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, life is always good on this end over here, Kyle. Everything is great, man. I mean, except this stuff just going on in our world, man.
Yes, Governor
So
Doug Ducey
insane.
just announced that he's closing down. Well, not closing down. Has stopped all people like buying homes and such,
Oh,
and
really?
realty
Yeah.
throughout Arizona
Oh my
due to the
goodness.
coronavirus. And then Donald Trump is still on and on about things.
Yeah, I guess he is doing that. But I'm telling you, he's on and on about quite a few things that really shouldn't be on and on about at all. Uh, yeah, but I understand. Oh, we have been, we as being Arizonians are not number one as far as the pandemic is
We are
concerned.
not. Actually, they have just. I just read this morning. They have at least Pima County. I'm not sure about the other areas, but Pima County here in Tucson, the cases have kind of stopped a little bit. They well, it hasn't really stopped. There hasn't been any new cases or deaths in the past like 72 hours.
There's the rub, or deaths. I don't mind being coming down with it, but it's the D part of that coming down with it that doesn't work.
So I mean,
Yes.
we slowed down a little bit, but who knows? It could come back up. It could come back down. We just don't know.
But anyway, tonight our guest, buddy, do we have a guest that is so dear to my heart, buddy? We got a guest that I have been knowing for a while, and his voice, his DJ voice, I haven't heard in a while because he's from Los Angeles. We DJ'd in Los Angeles. He's from Cleveland, but he DJ'd in Los Angeles for years, and he's a very good friend of mine from Los Angeles, Mr. J.J. Johnson, a disc jockey extraordinaire, shows, radio shows, and everything. JJ, how in the world are you, kiddo?
I'm fine, Alex. I'm particularly pleased to be here with you and seeing your face. This is the first time I've seen your face in a long time.
Man, it's been a good 30, 35 years since I've seen your face, man,
Yep.
at least.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. But you still have that voice, I remember. That voice.
That doesn't go away. The funny thing about that is that to my ear, I sound like I'm 17. So,
I guess
yeah.
you have, and I guess you've heard your voice for a little while.
Yeah, but most people don't like their own voice.
I hate my voice.
Yeah, and that's how most people are, and I'm the same way. Although sometimes I'll do something and say, "No, that was pretty good,"
Yeah.
but other times I listen to it and it sounds like dorky dork from Dorkville. You know what I mean?
So
And
I really think you have that disc jockey voice. You really do, and it sounds good. But you, on occasion, don't like your voice.
yeah, well, it's something that you get over. You just because I know nobody likes their voice.
Yeah.
People cringe at the sound of their own voice because it doesn't fit your self-image. It's like the difference between looking yourself in the mirror and looking at yourself on a videotape after the fact of being videoed. You look at yourself on videotape, you cringe. On the mirror, you have control over your movements and whatnot. And when you're looking at yourself on video, you don't. You see yourself sort of as other people do, and that's not how you see yourself.
That's amazing. It's amazing because you make your living on your voice.
Yeah, and what I have to do is I have to remember just to go with what I got and not to put enhancements on it. In terms of, in other words, I don't want to twist it up to please my own ear because then it comes off as very ungenuine.
Greg, absolutely.
And that's a professional consideration. You just got to remember that. So I'm not trying to. It's not about trying to sound good to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it's really not about a voice. It's more about content. What am I saying?
Right.
Yeah. So that's that.
How'd you get started in the theatrical business?
Well, theater was another thing. Theater I started off with when I was a child. 1955. I was 5 years old, and we lived in a house. It was a very large house with other people. It was a small mansion. My parents were young, and we lived in the library, which seemed huge to me at that time, but I was only 3 feet tall. And but the place had other people in it. They were all theatrical types, mostly theatrical types.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Brown was a guy who worked at Caramoo House. Caramoo House is the oldest Black theater in America, and Cleveland is the second largest theatrical community in America. Most people don't know that. It's second only to Broadway. And Caramoo's over 100 years old now. But and my mother had been involved with it with a group called the Thespians. It was sort of like a booster group.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to a lot of plays as a result of that because they would fill the seats because they needed seat fillers at the time in the 50s. Anyhow, Bill Brown asked my mother if he could take me to Caramoo, and she said, okay. And I remember getting in a great big, if memory serves, it was a beige Dodge with a 3-speed on the column. You remember 3-speed? You remember 3-speed on the column?
Yes, on the column.
That doesn't happen anymore. Anybody born in the last 30 years doesn't know what I'm talking about. But at any rate, he took me to Caramoo, and I loved it, man. I mean, I just loved it A to Z. So my mother shortly thereafter enrolled me in children's theater, and in 1957 I did my first play. It was a part in a thing called The Bluebird. I jumped my cue.
Did you really?
I sure did. First thing I did was first time I appeared on stage, I jumped my cue. And
anxious.
And I realized what I did, but I was 7 years old, right? So I realized what I did. I cut my face, and I turned and went backstage. And Ann Flagg, she was our teacher. And Ann Flagg was back there in the prompter's chair. So then I heard my cue and went out and did my thing. I never did that again.
Yes, but think of the story you have for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, well the better story actually is A Raisin in the Sun, because Caramoo was the only non-professional company in America licensed to present that play at that time in 1961. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the 2 Travises. We had to have 2 Travises because you couldn't work a kid 6 nights a week.
Right.
It was me and Riley Hampton. He happened to be a classmate of mine in school. And Cleveland's a big city, so you got these 2 kids from the same class.
Really?
Yeah. And he and I were Travis. And the thing about it, Ron O'Neill was in that. He was George Murchison.
Really?
And I don't know if you remember Al Fan. He had Al Fan's.
Al Fan, yes.
Al Fan was Walter
I'm
Lee.
sorry, yeah.
Minnie Gentry. Broadway Minnie Gentry was Lena.
Yes.
So his camera was serious, man.
Yeah.
At any rate, the one of the high points was that I met Lorraine Hansberry. She had been, she'd said she's going to come, and then she had to cancel out. She said she wasn't going to make it, and then she made it. And I remember I took my son when he was 18. This is 20 some years ago. I took him to the spot at the end of the hallway near the stage door where I conversed with Lorraine Hansberry. You know, when I say conversed, I mean she conversed with me like you converse with a 10-year-old, right? So, but she was, or how was I? 11? No, I was 10 still because it was before my birthday. It was early 61. And yeah, man, it was, and I did it again in 63, but I was just making it under the wire then because I was starting to grow and my voice hadn't quite changed yet. And if they'd waited 6 months later, it just wouldn't have happened. But that was the theatrical thing, and then that was that. But in terms of radio, it was a case of I was working at a women's shoe store in South Euclid, Ohio, which is a suburb, and I was a stock boy, and they gave me a chance to sell. I'm the worst retail salesman on the planet, probably in the galaxy. You know, in all history. I mean, I was terrible. But I got my friend Chuck Denson from school. I said, would you work the stock detail while I do this? He said, yeah. Anyhow, we did that, and I spent the day not selling shoes. And me and Chuck were headed home. We're on the way home, a transfer point in Cleveland Heights. We were standing at the bus stop to catch the bus, back to our neighborhood. And he points to his door behind us and said, that's WCUY. WCUY was a local jazz station. And I said, oh, yeah, that's I just thought it was a matter of interest. Oh, WCUY. And he said, we had to go in and see the disc jockey. I said, we can't do that. He said, yeah, we can. I said, no, we can't. Yeah, we can. No, we can't. Well, we ended up in the building. So we went up the stairs, and there was this door with a round window. And we're standing in front of the door. You go in. No, you go in. No, you go in. No, man, you go in. No, you go in. Finally, the guy opens the door and says, can I help you? Well, we're here to see the disc jockey. He says, come on in. He was the guy. So his name was Chuck Lansing. And I remember sitting there, and I was fascinated at the idea. Now, Cleveland Heights is on the east side of town, east end of Cleveland. And I remember thinking that every time he cracked the mic and said something, or every time he started a record on one of those, he had those big, huge Gates turntables. They were slow as can be, but he knew how to slip cue and do things. I'm using technical terms here. He knew how to work them. And every time, he'd make, start a record, start a song, people could hear him instantly on the far west side. And I thought, wow. That's really something. I mean, it hadn't really crossed my mind before, but I'm sitting here, and as I'm hearing him, they're hearing him that much later on the far west side. And that was fascinating to me. So I started making that a stop on the way home, a regular stop. And the first time I went on the air on a commercial station, because I had gone on the air on WBOE, which is an educational station, but it had nothing to do with music. My friend Michael Washington, lifelong friend, the oldest friend I have in the world, he took my place when they gave me another chance to be a salesman, and I spent that day not selling shoes. And we went there, and Chuck, I think Chuck was doing it he knew I knew the drill. And he was, trying to make me look good. He swung the mic around, told me to do the weather and introduce the next song. So I did the weather the way he did the weather. And then I introduced the next song. I don't know if Oscar Peterson or Miles Davis or I don't know, Sonny Stitt and Ahmad Jamal, those were the guys at the time. And then finally Sometime shortly thereafter, he said, "Why don't you do this?" I said, "I can't do that. I'm only 15." He said, "You got a social security card?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Then you can do this."
Uh,
Bing. Said,
and the
okay.
rest is history, huh?
Well, he tried to help me, and our attempts at getting me anything going in Cleveland weren't working. And I sort of let it rest a little bit. And then I was listening to WABQ, which was what we used to do. There were two R&B stations in town. ABQ was one of them. Mike Payne, who became a lifelong friend, he was on one. Mike Payne was one of the greatest air personalities I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on the air. Oh, I'll tell you what happened. He was on the air, and we were getting ready to go into summer. It was after school, and he said something on the air, something about if I can help you in any way, just get in touch with us. He said it better than that, but I called him immediately. I said, "Hey, I want to be a disc jockey on the radio." He said, "Oh, okay, well, come on down." So I came down. I came down the next day. And I remember it was a very rainy day. It was one of those Midwest warm Midwest downpours, right? And I came in and saw him soaking wet. And I had seen him at my high school once. He had been in a swirl of students, and he was wearing disc jockey regalia, with the red patent leather trench coat and all the crazy stuff from the 60s. But this day he was wearing a very elegant suit, and he was sitting in the music office, the music director's office. And he, first thing he said, his first words to me was, "Hey man, go to the men's room and dry yourself off." And so I did, and I came back, and he was cordial and whatnot. And he gave me the 5-cent tour of the station and whatnot. I saw the studio. It was really state of the art for the time. It really was. And took me around. I saw the newsroom and the production studio and this and that. And he says he had to go. He says, "Well, can I drop you off somewhere?" I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Where are you going?" He told me where he's going. I said, "Well, you can get me to 105th and Euclid. I'll be all right." He took me to the bus stop there, and I had given him my number and whatnot. And I'm thinking, remember now, I'm 15 years old. Or was I 16? No, I wasn't 16 yet. I was 15 years old, and I'm thinking, well, he got my number. So a month passed, no call. 2 months, 3 months, no call. Finally, after 3 months, and school was about to start again, I called him up. I say, "Hey, man, I'm serious." He said, "Okay."
That must have shocked him.
Well, I mean, you listen. You have to. At that time, you had to assert yourself.
Yeah.
You could not be passive about it because you didn't care if you were passive.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I hired people. When
you
I would
didn't have
hire
it anyway, So.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not somewhat aggressive about it, you don't care enough about it.
Right.
This is not a hobby, and it's not a drudge. It's not drudgery. So it's not something that it's something that you approach with a modicum of enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
They said, "Come on down." So I came down, and this time he handed me a stack of records and some copy, and took me in the production studio and showed me how it worked. It was where the old equipment was, and that was fine. And just had me do my idea of a radio show. So I did. My first lesson in radio was, it's W. It was WABQ, and I said W. He said, "No, it's W." I said, "Okay," and that was my first professional lesson in radio. It was W. And Leon Isaac Kennedy was on the air. He was the part-time man at that time. Okay. And he was on the air when I got there.
I didn't know Leon was in the radio. I know he'd been an actor.
Yeah, no, Leon was in
Jane Kennedy were together for.
Right. Me and Leon been knowing each other forever. And I knew his brother and his mom from when I was 7. Yeah, it's Cleveland, man.
Okay.
So I knew that part-time guys go on to be full-time guys, and then you got a part-time slot open. So I figured, okay, I'm going to hang around here and get my act together, and eventually I'm going to get on the radio. So nobody told me Leon was going to go to WJLB in Detroit, and he left. Now, I knew that this weekend they're going to have to do something. Nobody said you got the gig. But I knew this weekend they're gonna have to do something because there's nobody to fill the slot, and the staff is too tight for that, you know.
Yeah.
So finally, midweek sometime, Mike said very casually, he said, "Hey man, you ready to go on the air?" And I said very casually back. I was turning cartwheels inside, but I said very casually, "Yeah."
I was casual. Yeah.
so he said, "All right." So it was on Saturday, January 6th, 1968.
Ooh,
That
remember
I,
that date?
that I went on. Yeah, I remember. Well, I looked it up. I had forgotten it, but I did remember it was the first Saturday of '68.
Right.
And I had this. I wish to this day I had that intro that Wes Dickinson had cut for me. He ended up cutting them for everybody, but it was a real slam bang, bump kind of a thing, right? And it was a great piece of production. Wes had an incredible imagination. He's the guy in the picture of me and James Brown, and that was in Houston because we all went to Houston. It's like we just all just went to Houston. That was later, but before 2 hours was out, I started at 10 a.m. and about 11:45. Long story short, I said the S word on the air twice.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
Uh-oh.
And the newsman, you know, in the studio, you look straight into the newsroom. Newsman got up, just calmly walked around, walked up the hall, came in my studio, reached across, hit the button. Your mic was on. And my life passed before my eyes. I couldn't believe this. Oh man. So I played it off. I mean, I was theatrically savvy enough to know you just keep on going like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And when I finally got to like 3:00 and Mike hadn't showed up and yanked me off the air or anything, I thought, okay, I survived that. And then Monday, I saw one of my teachers in the hallway at school. She looked at, I said, "Miss Blaha," she said, she turned around and looked at me and she said, "Oh." So it wasn't, you know, and then I waited for 30 years until I knew the coast was entirely clear. And I asked Mike, I said, "Hey man, did you hear me say that?" He said, "No." I said, "Okay," but I wasn't going to ask him before that. I'm going to make sure that enough time had passed so he couldn't retroactively fire me. But anyhow, yeah, that's how I got started. To make a long story really boring.
That's quite a story.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's just that. I guess that on that S word on the air was, like I said, when you do stuff like that, the stories you have later.
Well, you know, the funny thing, you do something like that on the air, and you realize that you freeze. And it's like you're trying to stop time and see if you can back up time, right? And undo that thing. But yeah, that's the only time that happened. I think I said "damn" on the air once by accident, but that's not so bad. And then what else did I say? I'll tell you what's more common is you're going from one station to another, and at some point you say the last call letters. Now, I was at K-Day for 12 years. Usually you do it in the first few months. And the program directors know you're going to do that because it becomes, you know,
normal.
Yeah, it's just part of you. But I was at K-Day for 12 years out of my 17 years there when I finally opened the mic and said, "KFRC is a station in San Francisco. This is 1580 K-Day."
And you're still doing radio today, correct?
No, I'm doing the equivalent of radio. I'm doing radio-like stuff here's the thing. When you say radio to me, I think of transmitters and towers.
Right.
And what I'm doing now is online.
Like a podcast.
Sort of, except it's a touchy thing. You can't really do hit music on a podcast because of various licensing considerations that make it people can download it, but they can't download soulradiocoasttocoast.com. They can only listen to it. And so I'm doing a 2-hour weekly thing called Amazing R&B. And you know, using my old radio skills to put that together. And I have an archive of interviews. And
So when is Amazing R&B on, and how do we find
I'm
it?
I'm giving it to you in terms of Pacific time. So wherever somebody happens to be checking this out, they got to figure it from Pacific time. Sundays, 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Tuesdays, 12 noon, and Thursdays, 3 p.m. Those are all Pacific times. So that's Sunday, 11 and 1, Tuesday, 12 noon, Thursday, 3 p.m. And
It's Amazing R&B.
Amazing R&B. But it's at soulradiocoasttocoast.com. And that's Soul Radio Coast, the numeral 2, coast.com. It's easy to find.
So you're basically just doing like interviews with like R&B people and stuff like that.
Well, here's the thing. It's a presentational thing. It's not a thing where I sit there and say, hey, so-and-so, how you doing? Oh, hey, JJ, blah, 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 blah. It's not like that. I think like I still got a radio mind,
Sure.
contemporary radio mind. So what I want to do is I want to take you as a listener and put you there right away. Bam.
Right.
I'll tell you something. I was with a friend of mine and we were watching something that he liked to watch online. And it was the guy who did interviews. He had Jennifer Lopez, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a book, and in my book I said I'm a terrible guy to listen to the radio with because I'll ruin it for you. Because you think everything is fine, and I'm making, I'm saying, what is this? Why would he do that? It's the stupidest, was that me? Yeah, I'm turning this thing off. Excuse me. Anyhow, what happened was I'm watching this guy. And when I say kid, he was in his 20s, I guess. And I'm old enough to call somebody in their 20s kid. I call my kid, and he's 41. But he was on camera, and he's saying that he's going to have Jennifer Lopez on, and he's talking about Jennifer Lopez and saying this and that and the other about Jennifer Lopez and whatnot. And I turned to my friend, I said, man, let me tell you something. He'd have got a phone call from me 15 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Okay. He got Jennifer Lopez there. You say, I got Jennifer Lopez. She did this, this, and this, and this. Jennifer, how you doing? That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Put that viewer, you put that listener right there.
Right.
Why am I going to talk about Alexander Folk and I'm sitting here with him?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why would I talk about Kyle and there's Kyle?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. So Kyle, in answer to your question, if you listen to it, you will find that I transition from back selling whatever song I just played, and bam, you're in it. It's like there's the act, and then like Lou Rawls said something, and I start talking about Lou Rawls. So obviously this is who you just heard, and this is who you'll hear next, and it goes on, and I do 4 segments per 2 hours, and followed by records that they're related to. The first record I played actually with Lou Rawls was Sam Cooke, because Lou was he was singing background vocals on Bring It On Home to Me.
Okay.
Listen to that. You'll hear Lou. He's all through, especially the that's him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kyle wouldn't know who Lou Rawls is with his 21-year-old self. But
well, I understand it, but it's for him it'll be an education. For us, it'll be a reminiscence.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And for us, it's an education too, because they always tell me something I didn't know, and they always tell me something that people my age didn't know.
Yes, absolutely.
There's always something. And one of the things that I've always gone for when I've done produced pieces, I'm talking about radio specials and things like that, syndicated shows, is what I call eyebrow appeal. You should raise your eyebrows on occasion, at intervals. I should do something to make you do that. Not necessarily jump out of your skin, but you should go, really? I didn't know that. You know what I mean?
Eyebrow appeal. I like that.
Yeah, something. Whoa.
Yeah, I like that eyebrow appeal. I like that.
That sort of thing. So that's what I go for, and they always give it. You don't have to worry about it. They're going to tell you something, and they'll probably tell you a lot of things.
And by the way, you say you wrote a book. What is the name of your book?
It's called Air Check: Life in Music Radio. It's on Amazon.com.
Air Check.
Air Check: Life in Music Radio.
Okay.
It's I sent you a couple pictures of people holding the book up. My friend Mark Drummond and my friend, these are both radio people. Mark's also a musician, uh, and Sayeda Jaffrey. She's on the air here in the Inland Empire. She's an old friend of mine, and they're holding the book up. And
Oh, okay.
but yeah, it's about. I decided at a point, um, we want people to know we were here.
Exactly.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
I
And
agree.
so I decided I'm going to start writing about um, what I've seen and done in radio. Now, I didn't want to make it just who I met because I met everybody.
Mm,
It's Hollywood, man. It's,
yeah.
you meet everybody.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to be about various things, and I knew that I didn't trust my own discipline to sit down and write on a regular basis because I knew
Right.
other things are going to intervene, and I'm going to find a reason not to write today and another reason not to write tomorrow. So
Right.
I started a blog, which I know nothing about to this day. I have no clue how those things work,
Mhm.
but I knew that I would get somebody would be, plugging into that blog weekly.
Ah,
And I
okay.
have a showbiz sense which says the show must go on.
Uh,
So I said, okay, I'm making a blog. I'm gonna have to write something.
mhm.
And I did. So some days I would write something 2 days in advance. Other days I write it an hour in advance because I'm up against the deadline and I haven't done anything. Oh man, what am I going to talk about? Oh yeah, there was that time that blah 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 blah. So I wrote about whatever came to my mind,
Oh, okay.
really, and I didn't try to cover everything. It's like I can't cover everything, and I didn't want to, and I also didn't want it to be a list of the famous people I've known. There are
Mm,
some famous people I've known that I wrote about
mm,
because I had stories about them. But
right.
I didn't want it to just be let me show off all the people I know. Come on, that gets real boring. But I talked about other things. I talk about the things that pet peeves. I
Right.
talk about some of my gaffes and silly mistakes. Uh, and my various encounters with people who aren't necessarily famous or known by all, but were interesting encounters and whatnot. And people read the book, and very often they say, "Man, I had no idea." I'll tell you who. I'll tell you who you might remember. Remember Larry Carroll used to be on Channel Two
Okay,
News
yeah,
here.
on AB, he was with ABC for years. I used to wonder whatever happened to him.
Larry's in Nevada. But he told me after he read the book, he said, "Man," he said, "I thought I had an interesting life. Wow." So uh, yeah, it's an interesting life, that's for sure.
Right. And
And I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate, because of the places I've been and the people I knew. Because
mhm,
I worked with the best, the
mhm,
best,
right.
and some of it rubbed off.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's like I see also a lot of times people don't think about it because people think about the people that, like you were talking about, the famous people that you've met and you've met everybody in the music business and Hollywood or whatever. But a lot of times that guy that lived next door to us kind of a thing that nobody never knew, or the guy you would run into at the supermarket, some of those people have some of the greatest stories
Oh
that
yeah,
you
and
would
then there
ever
are
imagine.
behind the scenes people. There are record
Yes.
promotion people. There
Yes.
are uh, there are things that go on out of view. I mean, I recall being at Hyder. I don't. You remember Martoni's? You and I went there.
Oh, Marty, yeah, we went to Martoni's a
Yeah,
lot of times.
yeah. Well,
Winga.
that building went away, and the building that replaced it has now gone away.
Mhm.
And there's probably a new building there by now. Last time I looked, there was nothing on the site. But at any rate, next door was Wally Hyder, which was a recording studio. There were two Hyders on that block. One was there, and one was up the street and just around the corner on Summer, just a couple doors away. And I don't remember how I ended up in there, but uh, this is when Don Cornelius and Dick Riffey had a label called Soul Train
Oh,
Records.
mhm. Remember it well.
And that was before they split up and Dick made it Solar.
Right.
And at any rate, I just remember being in Hiders with Don Cornelius, who was, they were putting together a Whispers album. I think it was Whispers. And he was working with Paulino da Costa, the conga player.
Mm-hmm.
And he was directing him through this thing. I just remember being in there watching him do that. I was rather fascinated and really impressed that he, because I've been around producers before.
Mm-hmm.
Don knew what he was doing. He knew what he wanted, and he knew how to get it, and he knew how to get it out of the artist.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You don't do it with a hammer. You
you can't.
You do it by coaxing and encouraging. Yeah. And in little moments like that, I don't think I wrote about that in the book, but there were a lot of little moments like that. Lunch with Mr. Brown was one of them. That was me and James Brown at Martoni's.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That was an interesting little story. I had known him for years by then, but that was an interesting story.
Have you ever thought about doing like film and television?
Yeah, I would like to turn the book into. I can see the book as a basis for probably a cable type TV show. Okay. But I'm not interested in it as a laugh track comedy, because they do that with radio, and the things that I've seen on TV that were supposedly centered around radio had nothing to do with radio. Nothing. I mean, they had no reality at all. And and I'm not thinking about, I don't think that you can successfully, this is what I think. I don't think you can, TV shows are about life. They're not about the cops. They're not about the doctor. They're about life and problems, and this is happening, and then we got to do this to counteract it, and how are we going to get through this? That's what these things are about. Yeah. But they're put into these settings. Mm-hmm. You don't have that kind of drama in radio, because we don't do life and death. Right. We don't do that. Cops do life and death. Doctors do life and death. Radio disc jockeys don't do life and death. But we also don't just do silly comedy either. However, we have reach, and that reach goes to interesting people.
Yeah, a lot of interesting people.
And, you know what I'm saying? And so I have a concept, but it's only in my head. You can't just keep a concept in your head. You really got to write it down, which I've not done yet. But I have a concept for this book that would center around, but not be about radio per se. Mm-hmm. And I think it could, in my head, it could fly. But what do I know? I mean, I'm gonna push it at a point in the near future, and see how far they can go. But I think it could be I think I got an interesting concept.
Well, hopefully somebody watching or listening in will know about that. That book again is Air Check.
Life in Music Radio. Air Check. Life in Music Radio.
Where can people find that book?
Amazon.com.
By J.J. Johnson.
Yes,
sir. All right. Okay, folks, remember that.
Yeah, I wish I had a copy to show you. I don't know. I'm moved. I don't know if you can see the chaos behind me, but because my stuff is not all in here yet. But I had one copy of the book. I gotta order some more, or I would have sent you some. Yeah, but it's you have two photos with people holding up the cover.
Oh, all right, okay. We'll get that up on Friday when it airs.
Yeah.
Also, I'm kind of interested. When I met you many years ago, you were at K-Day Radio. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you was at K-Day Radio for like 12 years and
17.
So, yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, I was at 17, the longest job 17. I ever had.
All righty. Well, I was curious to know about some of the disc jockeys that were there. I think you had mentioned Steve Woods had passed away.
Steve passed, yes, he did.
And how about Don Mack?
Don Mack's still around, man. Don Mack is a pastor.
Oh, okay.
And he's Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
And but he's still Mack.
Yeah. If he's still in Los Angeles at all?
Yeah.
He's okay.
I talk to him from time to time. I usually see him once a year at a gathering that we have that we probably won't have this year because of this COVID-19.
Yeah, COVID. But if you see him, please tell him I said hello.
I will.
Yeah.
But we're all old people, so we're not about
Yes.
passing these things.
K-Day radio, man, right up there on the hill. I
Yeah. I
remember.
talked to Jim Maddox the other day.
Oh, Jim Maddox. Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
And I'm in
yes.
touch with Spanky Lane.
Oh, yeah. Is that, you say he's where? Is he?
I'm in touch with Spanky. Remember Spanky Lane?
Yeah.
You should see this palace he lives in. He lives in New Mexico, man. This house up on the hill is unbelievable. Spanky did well.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Tell Jim Maddox I said hello.
I will tell Jim Maddox you said hello.
Yeah, that's
So.
Oh
Yeah.
man, those are some days, man. I remember K-Day Radio up there on the hill off of, what is that, Alvarado.
Yeah, we lost Gary Price a while back. He was our general manager.
Okay.
But Gary had a good old life, man. He had a good time.
Wow.
So anyhow, and that's another thing. Gary had been a disc jockey and a music director and a program director. So when you become a program director and you have somebody like that as a general manager, man, that is manna from heaven, because he knows exactly what you're talking about. Most people who have not had programming experience really are not directly in touch with what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Gary, I want to do da 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 da. Well, how are you going to handle the such and such part? Well, I'm going to do da 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 da. Okay, cool, go. It was simple as that. It wasn't, well, why don't we do this with it? Why don't we do that with it? Because Gary would know that won't work. So when you're working with somebody like that, that was one of the really cool things about working with him.
Yeah.
Because he knew the job.
Right.
He knew what went into it.
Okay.
And that's the thing. It's not what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's one thing most people don't know. For example, people say, well, don't you want to play good music? Man, I don't care. I want to play hit music.
Yeah.
And most of it is good.
Good. Yeah.
But that's my consideration. My consideration isn't is it good? My consideration is it a hit?
Yeah.
And a hit to me, a hit to us is something that has a broad appeal. A hit to the average person is something that is popular in their peer group.
Right.
So that could be someone confined to one block.
Yeah. Yeah. One household.
Or your house, or your high school.
Yeah.
But no, what we're going for is mass appeal. I need thousands and thousands of listeners at a time.
Right.
And so that's my consideration. And people don't understand. People are usually surprised to learn that. No, man, it's not about that. Can I give you some enthusiasm about it? I can give you enthusiasm about something I absolutely hate. Why? Because that's the gig, right? But most of the time when you hear me wax enthusiastic about something, it's because it's something I dig,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Absolutely.
Well, Alex, you got any more questions for JJ Johnson?
Well, I have millions of them from JJ. I haven't seen him in so long, but I think that's for another 100 more shows, though. It would be here forever.
Read the bio, man. Read the bio, and if you get a chance, get hold of the book.
Oh,
I think you'll find it fascinating. You know some of the people in there.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I'm gonna look that up today. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Steve Woods was the first person to take me to Martoni's.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then we went back there with a couple of pretty girls and had dinner.
That's always good.
Yeah.
That is always good.
That's always good, man.
Yes, indeed.
So, but I could, I got stories to death. Somebody said, well, if somebody asked me this, if somebody made a TV show out of this, could you come up with more stories? And I said, yeah, I can come up with more stories than this. Those are just the ones I wrote for the book. Because it's an ongoing thing. That's one of the cool things about this gig. I can't think of, there are probably more interesting things that you could do, but I don't know what those are. I mean, I don't run the White House. I don't catch the bad guys. There's some things I don't get that are probably very exciting and certainly worthy of storytelling. But in terms of in my because I always knew I was going to be in the entertainment business. My father was a musician.
Oh, really?
And yeah, he was a professional musician, classically trained jazz man. And I was around from the age of 5, I was around actors and writers and dancers and lighting techs and set builders and directors and
Yeah.
playwrights and people like that. And then after that, it was radio. So I was around the contemporary artists of the day and meeting the people who I admired. So it's like it's a dream.
Oh yeah.
This is a dream. I mean, you couldn't. It doesn't get more interesting.
Absolutely, man.
From where I sit.
Yeah, I think from where everybody sit, I believe.
So if somebody said, "Would you trade it?" No, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't trade it.
You know what you want to do. That's great, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, God bless. It was really good talking to you, man.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell me.
Hey, we gotta have you back, man. It's just too many things we have to cover not to come back, man.
After you go through those things, after you if you just read the bio, I think you'll find some stuff. And then and certainly if you read the book, I've known people who read the book in one sitting. It's not that long a book. It's only about 122 pages or something like that.
Real fast, I want to get one question I had that I just thought of. And I'm not sure if you know this or not, but to this day, is it hard to get anywhere with entertainment? If it's theater, if it's virtual shows like we're doing, is it, do you have to know someone to do it, or how?
Kyle, I can't answer that question, man. At the time that I got in radio, for example, you would go to contemporary stations, certainly black stations. I don't know so much about top 40, but I imagine those two to some extent. And you would find there was always a group of kids who hung around the radio station.
Sure.
Their group, I'm not talking about, hordes of them. I'm talking about one or two, maybe three, who would come and go out of these places and get to know the staff and become familiar and whatnot. And somebody ended up going on the air at some point. That's how we got on the air. We was hanging around and watching. And how do you do this? And why do you do it that way? And yeah, I'll go to the store, and that kind of thing. And hey, kids, you want some tickets to this show? Yeah, I want some tickets to the show, and I get all the records I could eat. You go through all of that before you even go on the air. I don't know if that's possible today. I honestly don't know, but it sure was possible in the 60s, man. It was colorful.
Yeah, that was.
So I don't know, Kyle. That must be true, certainly in smaller markets. I don't know how you would do that in LA.
Yeah. Or New York.
Or New York, or Chicago. No. But maybe you could do it in some other places.
Right.
Because you gotta start somewhere. You don't just walk in and go on the air.
Yeah, because it's hard because it's like you need a college degree or a bachelor degree, and it's like.
Look, I don't have a degree in anything, but I can tell you that nobody with a college degree is just going to come and blow me out of the water at what I do.
Right.
Because it's not like that. I know what I do from doing, and and I know why I'm doing certain things I'm doing that other people don't know because they don't have to.
Sure.
Right.
So there might be some corporate policy that you have to have this, that, or the other degree. But, when it comes right down to it, if I'm program director of a station, I want a guy on the air who can get me listeners. Right. I want you to get me as many listeners as you can and make them listen as long as you possibly can get them to stay there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. Do you have a degree? I don't care. As long as you're not a criminal.
Yeah.
A practicing criminal. But it's because that's the bottom line. It's listeners, getting them to listen long and often.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the game. So these other rules and whatnot, I mean, I went and approached one station. I remember here in LA. I didn't know anybody there, but I had sent something in at somebody else's suggestion. I think Steve Wood suggested it. But he wasn't around to shepherd it through. And they wanted to shunt me off to, what do you call it, human resources. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And excuse my ego, but I'm J.J. Johnson and I'm not doing human resources. Thank you very much.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I'll pass. And yeah, that's some big ego there. I know it is. And I know what it sounds like. But, it's like, it's like if you're an open heart surgeon, can you extract a tooth?
Yeah.
Can you figure that out? I think you
Yeah.
probably could.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if you're not a dentist, because I did it as a kid when I was 9. Okay, so
I know what you mean.
so yeah, it's a different scene, and I know it's a different scene,
Yeah.
and I got some criticisms about that too, and I wrote all that in the book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I got to pick that up, man. Gotta have it. Gotta
Yeah.
have it. Yeah.
You'll get a kick out of it.
All right.
You'll see people you knew.
Oh,
Well,
you
I
know,
appreciate coming on the show with us and taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Oh,
absolutely.
it's my pleasure. Are you kidding?
I really appreciate it. And hey, I think we got to have you back, man. After I do that book and biography and stuff,
Yeah, it's only
talk-
it's biographical, but that's sort of happenstance because it's really about radio.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's from my perspective. So
Exactly.
in that sense, it's autobiographical.
Exactly.
But
We'll talk.
that's not my life story because my life story is bigger than
No.
that.
But we can talk radio. We talk anything. I just want to talk because we haven't been. It's been too many years since we've talked, man.
Well, you got on my subject, so
Yeah.
you get on my subject is now it's like how can we shut him up, right?
There you go.
Because I go on and on and on about that.
Yeah.
As Kyle now knows. So
Hey, well,
yeah,
look,
it's anyhow, Kyle, it's my pleasure and my pleasure, Alex.
Hey, really,
thanks
man.
for having me on.
Hey, God bless, man. Let's do it again, man. Really appreciate you, man.
All right.
Alex,
Yes, sir.
Monday night,
All right. Who do you
we
have?
have a former performance director and former principal performer and light captain for Fellow Entertainment's Disney on Ice coming on the show, Adam Lucy. He is coming on and chatting with us what it's like to be a figure skater and a bunch of other cool stuff around the area and on the road. Anything else on your end, Alex, you want to talk about? Anything you need to say? Anything?
I just want to say again, extraordinarily thanks to you, JJ, and really appreciate it. And looking forward to let's do it again.
All right.
As a reminder, folks, be sure to tune in and get your tickets for Laugh at Home Comedy Show, a brand new interactive show we're launching on August 15th at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's going to be a fun show, and I cannot wait to do it. All right. You can tune in live with Kyle and Alex every Monday and Friday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And yeah, that's about it on my end, Alex.
Hey, good night, everybody, and tons of thanks. Extraordinary.